I caught my brother and sister on camera, robbing my apartment. When I pressed charges, my parents disowned me. Now, they're stalking me, and I'm living in fear. But the truth is more twisted than anyone could imagine. I'm a 32-year-old guy living on my own in a small apartment downtown. I have two younger siblings, Jennifer, 29F, and Timothy, 27M. We grew up in a pretty dysfunctional household in the suburbs. Our dad, Ryan, was a workaholic accountant who was rarely home. When he was around, he'd often criticize us for not meeting his impossibly high standards. Our mom, Linda, struggled with depression and spent most days in bed or zoned out in front of the TV. As the oldest, I tried to step up and take care of my siblings. I'd make sure we had food to eat, help with homework, and try to keep the peace when our parents fought. Jennifer and Timothy started acting out from a young age. I remember when Jennifer was 8, she got caught shoplifting candy from the corner store. Instead of punishing her, our mom just shrugged it off, saying, "At least she's eating something." Timothy had anger issues and would often get in fights at school. When he was 10, he put another kid in the hospital by pushing him off the jungle gym. Our dad's response was to bribe the other family not to press charges, then take Timothy out for ice cream to cheer him up. As we got older, Jennifer and Timothy's behavior escalated. In high school, Jennifer started hanging out with a rough crowd. She'd come home drunk or high, miss days of school, and steal money from our parents' wallets. Timothy got into drugs and joined a local gang. He'd disappear for days at a time, then show up covered in bruises and asking for cash. Through all of this, I tried to stay on the straight and narrow. I worked hard in school, got a part-time job at 16, and focused on building a stable future for myself. I'd try to talk to Jennifer and Timothy about turning their lives around, but they'd just laugh it off or tell me to mind my own business. Our parents continued to enable Jennifer and Timothy's behavior. They'd give them money whenever they asked, bail them out of trouble, and make excuses for their actions. Meanwhile, I was expected to be the responsible one and help clean up everyone else's messes. When I was 18, I moved out to go to college. It was such a relief to finally have some peace and stability in my life. I worked my way through school, got good grades, and landed a solid job in marketing after graduation. Jennifer and Timothy's lives, on the other hand, continued to spiral. Jennifer dropped out of community college after one semester and cycled through a series of dead-end jobs and toxic relationships. Timothy never even finished high school. He's been in and out of jail for petty crimes and drug offenses. Over the years, Jennifer and Timothy have stolen thousands of dollars worth of stuff from me. It started small, a few 20s missing from my wallet when they'd visit, DVDs and video games disappearing from my shelves. But it escalated quickly. When I was 25, I came home from work to find my apartment ransacked. My TV, laptop, and several other valuables were gone. I later found out Jennifer had made a copy of my key, and she and Timothy had robbed me while I was at work. When I confronted them, they denied everything. Our parents told me I should be more understanding because Jennifer and Timothy were going through a rough patch. A couple years later, Timothy actually stole my car. I had loaned it to him for a job interview, and he never brought it back. I found out he had sold it to a chop shop for drug money. Again, my parents made excuses and pressured me not to go to the police. These are just a couple examples. There have been countless other incidents over the years: stolen cash, forged checks, items missing after family gatherings. Every time I confront Jennifer and Timothy, they either deny it or make up some sob story about why they had no choice. And our parents always take their side, telling me I need to be more forgiving and supportive. I've tried everything I can think of to help Jennifer and Timothy. I've offered to help them find jobs, get into rehab, go back to school, but they always refuse or flake out after a few days. It's like they don't want to change or take any responsibility for their lives. Last month was the final straw. I went on a week-long work trip to a conference in Chicago. When I got home, I found my apartment had been completely cleaned out. My TV, laptop, gaming systems, even most of my clothes and kitchenware, all gone. I checked my security camera footage and saw clear video of Jennifer and Timothy breaking in. They made multiple trips over several days, basically moving everything of value out of my apartment. I was devastated and furious. I called the police and filed a report. Then I called my parents to let them know what happened. Their response made me feel like I was losing my mind. My mom said, "Oh, sweetie, I'm sure they didn't mean any harm. You know how tight money has been for them lately. Why don't you talk to them and work something out? I'm sure they'll pay you back when they can." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told my parents I was done enabling Jennifer and Timothy's criminal behavior. I said I was pressing charges unless they returned my stuff and paid me back for damages within 24 hours. My mom started crying, saying I was tearing the family apart. My dad got on the phone and started yelling at me. He said I was being selfish and cruel, and that family should always come first. He told me if I went to the police, I'd no longer be welcome in their home. Jennifer and Timothy are now blowing up my phone. Timothy sent me a long, rambling text about how he's hit rockbot Ryan and really needs my help to turn his life around. Jennifer left me a voicemail alternating between cursing me out and sobbing about how she might be pregnant and doesn't know what to do. My parents keep calling and leaving guilt-tripping messages. They say I'm overreacting and being unnecessarily harsh. They're pressuring me to drop the charges and just forgive Jennifer and Timothy like family should. I'm standing firm so far, but the whole situation is taking a huge emotional toll. I've had trouble sleeping and concentrating at work. I feel angry and betrayed, but also guilty and conflicted. Part of me wonders if I'm doing the right thing. I don't want to cut off my entire family, but I'm at my wit's end. Jennifer and Timothy have stolen from me countless times over the years. I've lost so much money and stuff. More than that, I've lost my sense of safety and trust. I'm tired of being the responsible one while everyone else gets away with treating me like crap. I keep thinking back to our childhood. I remember one Christmas when I was 14, I had saved up all year to buy Jennifer and Timothy special gifts. A necklace for Jennifer and a video game Timothy really wanted. I was so excited to give them something nice. But when I went to wrap the presents, I found they were gone. Jennifer and Timothy had searched my room, found the gifts, and taken them. They ended up re-gifting them to their friends. When I told our parents, they just laughed it off as kids being kids. They didn't make Jennifer and Timothy apologize or replace the gifts. I was crushed. But I realize now that was just the beginning of a lifelong pattern. Am I wrong for finally putting my foot down? Should I give Jennifer and Timothy one more chance? I'm worried pressing charges will permanently fracture my family, but I don't know what else to do at this point. I feel like I've spent my whole life trying to help them, and they've done nothing but take advantage of me. Any advice would be appreciated. I'm feeling lost and alone, and I'm not sure where to go from here. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for the supportive comments and advice. It really helped me stay strong through all this. I did end up pressing charges against Jennifer and Timothy. The police investigation uncovered even more than I realized. Turns out they've been running a pretty extensive theft ring, stealing from family, friends, and neighbors all over town. They were selling a lot of the stuff online or at pawn shops. The detective I worked with, Officer Johnson, was incredibly thorough. He traced online listings and pawnshop records, linking dozens of stolen items back to Jennifer and Timothy. They'd been targeting not just me, but several of our cousins, old high school classmates, and even some of our parents' friends. One of the hardest parts was learning how long this had been going on. Officer Johnson found evidence of Jennifer and Timothy's crimes dating back nearly a decade. It made me realize just how deep their issues run and how much damage they've done over the years. Jennifer and Timothy were both arrested about 2 weeks after I filed the report. I wasn't there, but I heard from a neighbor that it was quite a scene. Apparently, Timothy tried to run and had to be tackled by officers. Jennifer locked herself in the bathroom and refused to come out for hours. When my parents found out about the arrests, They absolutely lost it. They showed up at my apartment unannounced, pounding on the door and screaming. When I opened up, my dad immediately started yelling in my face. He called me every name in the book: selfish, heartless, a terrible brother. He said I was dead to him for betraying the family like this. My mom was sobbing hysterically, saying I was destroying everyone's lives. She begged me to drop the charges, offering to pay me back herself if I would just let it go. When I refused, she slapped me across the face. I was in shock. My mom had never been physically violent before. My dad saw red when that happened. He shoved me hard against the wall, getting in my face and threatening me. I had to physically push him away and tell them both to leave before I called the cops. They finally left, but not before my dad punched a hole in my apartment wall. The next couple weeks were awful. My parents rallied the extended family against me. I got nasty calls and messages from aunts, uncles, and cousins calling me selfish and heartless. My mom's sister, Aunt Karen, left me a particularly vicious voicemail saying I was worse than the devil for turning on my own blood. A few relatives I'm closer to reached out privately to offer support. My cousin Jake, who had also been stolen from by Jennifer and Timothy, thanked me for finally taking action. But most of the family has ostracized me completely. Jennifer and Timothy both took plea deals to avoid a trial. They're each going to serve about 18 months in prison, plus 5 years probation and having to pay restitution. I got most of my stolen stuff back, though a lot of it was damaged or had clearly been used roughly. Seeing Jennifer and Timothy in court was surreal. They both looked terrible, strung out, unwashed, with dark circles under their eyes. Part of me felt guilty seeing them like that, remembering them as the little kids I used to look after. But a bigger part of me felt relief that they were finally facing consequences for their actions. The hardest part of all this has been the total fracturing of my relationship with my parents. They're still 100% on Jennifer and Timothy's side. They visit them in jail every week, but won't even speak to me. My mom sent me one message saying I'm dead to her for putting her babies in prison. My dad apparently tells anyone. Who'll listen that I'm a sociopath who set up Jennifer and Timothy to get revenge for our difficult childhood? It hurts more than I can express. I keep thinking back to happier times, family vacations when we were kids, holiday dinners, my college graduation when my parents seemed so proud of me. It's hard to believe those same people now view me as a monster for refusing to let their other children continue to abuse and steal from me. I know I did the right thing, but the price has been so high. I've lost almost my entire family. The few relatives still speaking to me walk on eggshells, clearly uncomfortable with the whole situation. I feel isolated and alone a lot of the time. I'm in the process of moving to a new apartment across town and changing my phone number. I'm going to take some time to heal and figure out what kind of relationship, if any, I want with my family going forward. I'm also looking into therapy to work through all this trauma and dysfunction. Right now, I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. I'm throwing myself into work, trying to reconnect with old friends I'd drifted away from, and looking into some volunteer opportunities to feel less alone. It's a slow process, but I'm trying to stay hopeful. Thank you again to everyone who encouraged me to stand up for myself. It's been incredibly difficult, but I finally feel like I'm breaking free from the toxic family dynamics I've been trapped in for so long. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm steering my own ship instead of drowning in everyone else's chaos. Update 2. It's been about 6 months since my last update. A lot has changed, both good and bad. The good news is that I'm doing much better personally. I love my new apartment and neighborhood. It's a bit further from the city center, but it's quiet and I feel safe here. I've made some great friends in my building and through a local running group I joined. I've even started dating someone. Her name is Alexis, and we met at a work event. She's kind, funny, and refreshingly drama-free. It's still early days, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Therapy has been really helpful in working through my family issues and building healthier relationships. My therapist, Dr. Martin, has been helping me set boundaries and work through the guilt and conflicted feelings I have about cutting off my family. The bad news is that things with my family have only gotten worse. Jennifer and Timothy were released from prison early due to overcrowding. They immediately moved back in with our parents, who welcomed them with open arms. I tried to maintain very low contact after they got out. I sent a brief email to my parents letting them know my new address in case of emergencies, but I made it clear I wasn't ready to resume regular contact. That boundary was quickly ignored. Jennifer and Timothy started showing up at my work, sending threatening messages from burner phones, and I'm pretty sure they slashed my tires last week, though I can't prove it. The messages from Jennifer and Timothy range from pitiful to terrifying. Jennifer sent me a long email about how she's pregnant for real this time and doesn't know what to do. She begged me for money and said if anything happened to the baby, it would be my fault. Timothy left me a voicemail that was just heavy breathing and the sound of a knife being sharpened. My parents aren't much better. They've been leaving guilt-tripping voicemails and sending manipulative emails. My mom wrote me a long letter detailing every sacrifice she ever made for me, saying I owe it to her to forgive Jennifer and Timothy. My dad sent an email telling me that my grandfather is very ill, and that if I don't reconcile with the family soon, I'll regret it forever when he dies. I've been saving all of these messages as evidence, but I'm not sure what good it will do. The police seem reluctant to get involved without clear proof of a crime. They basically told me it's a family matter and to work it out ourselves. The final straw came yesterday. I got home from work to find my apartment had been broken into again. This time, they trashed the place, spray painting "snitch" on the walls and destroying a lot of my belongings. They slashed my couch, smashed my TV, and poured bleach on most of my clothes. The worst part is that they destroyed a box of old family photos I had, baby pictures, holiday snapshots, photos of my grandparents who have passed away. Those are irreplaceable, and it breaks my heart to lose them. I'm certain it was Jennifer and Timothy, but I don't have proof. I filed another police report, but without evidence there's not much they can do. I'm looking into a restraining order, but I'm not sure how effective that will be given how easily they've ignored boundaries so far. My parents are still enabling Jennifer and Timothy's behavior. They called me ranting about how I must have done something to provoke this attack and how I should just forgive my siblings. When I told them I was considering a restraining order, they threatened to disown me, again, and said they'd testify against me in court if I tried it. I'm at a loss. I don't want to have to move again or live in fear, but I also don't know how to make this stop. The police seem unwilling to do much without hard evidence. I'm considering hiring a private investigator to gather proof of Jennifer and Timothy's actions, but I'm worried about the cost and whether it would even help. This whole situation has really opened my eyes to how toxic my family is. As much as it hurts, I'm seriously considering cutting contact with all of them for good. I'm tired of being the scapegoat and punching bag for everyone else's issues. The hardest part is feeling so alone. Most of my extended family still won't speak to me. The few who are in touch mean well, but they don't really understand what I'm going through. They keep pushing me to reconcile, saying things like, "But they're your family, and blood is thicker than water." Alexis has been incredibly supportive through all of this. She's helped me clean up the apartment and has been staying over to help me feel safer. But I worry that all this drama will eventually be too much for her, and she'll decide I'm not worth the trouble. I could really use some advice on how to protect myself and move forward. Has anyone dealt with stalking, harassment from estranged family members? Any tips on gathering evidence or pursuing legal action? I'm feeling pretty lost and scared right now. Dr. Martin says I need to prioritize my safety and mental health, even if that means cutting off all contact. But it's so hard to let go of the hope that someday we could be a real family again. I keep remembering the good times, like when Jennifer and I would stay up late talking about our dreams for the future, or when Timothy and I would team up to pull pranks on our cousins at family reunions. But then I remember all the pain and betrayal, and I know I can't keep living like this. I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, jumping at every noise, afraid to answer my phone or check my email. It's no way to live. I'm considering changing my name and moving to a different city, but the thought of starting over completely is overwhelming. Plus, I worry that if I disappear, Jennifer and Timothy will just turn their anger on someone else in the family. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. I've installed better security in my apartment, and I'm being extra cautious when I go out. Alexis and some friends have been taking turns staying with me so I'm not alone. I'm trying to focus on the positive things in my life, my job, my relationship, my new friends. But it's hard to enjoy anything when I'm constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. If anyone has been through something similar or has any advice, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you for listening to my story. Update 3. It's been almost a year since this all started, and I think I'm finally reaching a resolution, though not the one I hoped for. After my last update, things escalated further with Jennifer and Timothy. They kept showing up at my work and home, despite the restraining order I managed to get. One day, Jennifer created a scene in the lobby of my office building, screaming about how I'd ruined her life and threatening to hurt herself if I didn't talk to her. Security had to escort her out, and my boss pulled me aside to express concern about how my personal issues were affecting the workplace. Timothy's behavior became increasingly erratic and frightening. He left dead animals on my doorstep and sent me photos of himself outside Alexis's apartment. The final straw was when he followed me into a parking garage late one night, cornering me and pulling out a knife. I managed to get away unharmed, but it was terrifying. Through all of this, my parents continued to enable and defend Jennifer and Timothy. They showed up at my apartment with them multiple times, trying to force a reconciliation. When I refused to let them in, they'd stand outside yelling and making a scene until my neighbors called the police. The private investigator I hired gathered solid evidence of Jennifer and Timothy violating the restraining order, as well as committing other crimes. There was video of them keying my car, audio of threatening phone calls, and proof that they were behind a series of harassing emails sent to my work colleagues. I took this evidence to the police, and Jennifer and Timothy were both arrested again. This time, they're facing serious prison time. We're talking 5-10 years each. The prosecutor said their prior convictions and the severity of their ongoing harassment campaign make this a very serious case. My parents have completely lost it. They're draining their retirement accounts to pay for expensive lawyers for Jennifer and Timothy. They've also stepped up their harassment of me, blaming me for destroying the family. My dad even tried to get me fired by telling my boss I had a drug problem. I've made the difficult decision to completely cut contact with my entire family. I've blocked their numbers, moved again, and I'm in the process of legally changing my name. It's drastic, but I don't see any other way to protect myself and find peace. It's been incredibly hard and lonely at times. The loss of my family, dysfunctional as they were, has left a huge hole in my life. Holidays are especially tough. Last Christmas, I found myself sitting alone in my apartment, looking at the few family photos I have left and crying. But I'm slowly building a new support system. Alexis has been my rock through all of this. We're talking about moving in together once my lease is up. I've also grown closer to some colleagues who have become good friends. We have weekly game nights, and they insisted on throwing me a birthday party last month. I'm focusing on healing and building a life free from the chaos and abuse I grew up with. I still have nightmares sometimes and struggle with anxiety, but overall I'm doing better. I'm excelling at work and even thinking about going back to school for an advanced degree. It's not the happy ending I wished for, but I'm hopeful for the future for the first time in a long time. Thank you to everyone who's offered support and advice throughout this journey. Your kindness has meant more than you know.